If you use social media, and assuming you follow some football-related accounts, chances are you will have seen this image over the last few days. It went viral on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Heck, it's probably already doing the rounds on LinkedIn by now, I just haven't seen it yet, because my timeline is clogged up with trust fund entrepreneurs telling poor people to stop buying coffee and nice things for themselves and to start a business instead. You know, how difficult can it be? I got a small loan of $1 million a few years back, and I'm doing great. I guess not everyone can handle the grind. Anyhow, if you saw that image circulating online, you probably saw it accompanied by a caption reading, "Chinese businessman bought Zibo Kuzhou, a second-tier Chinese side, and told the coach to play his son." Or, "Chinese businessman bought Zibo Kuzhou, a second-tier Chinese side, and told the coach to play his 126-kilogram son." Or, you know, something along those lines. Clearly, Football Bible, with some impressive journalistic due diligence, had managed to weigh the son involved, finding his weight to be 126 kilograms, which is almost 20 stone. And that remarkable scoop probably explains why they were still able to generate over 1,000 retweets and 5,000 likes, despite being a little late to the party. Whatever the wording though, and whatever the supposed weight of the son involved, the message was loud and clear. Chinese owner buys second-tier football team, owner tells manager to play his fat son, this is very funny, cue laughter. Despite the amount of traction that the story gained on social media, I didn't actually discover it organically. I was tagged on one of the posts by Ellis Platten, who some of you will know through his YouTube channel, Away Days. Ellis tagged me in a post from the @FootyAckham's Twitter account and just typed the word please after my username, which was short for please can you make one of your unnecessarily long and detailed videos about an obscure incident within the world of football about this. Or at least, that's what I took it to mean. I just jokingly replied, haha, don't tempt me, and then went off to bed, watched Coach Carter, and thought nothing else of it. But after Samuel L. Jackson was done drilling some much-needed discipline into the unruly Richmond High basketball team, my mind returned to that tweet. You see, that Footy Accumulators account is among the largest football accounts on social media, with over 600,000 followers on Twitter, just under 600,000 on Facebook, and more than 300,000 on Instagram. However, I also happen to think that it is among the worst. Whether it's news, views, or anything in between, I think it is among the least accurate and least considered football Twitter accounts that I have ever seen, and there is some formidable competition. I don't want to get too personal, and I've no idea who runs the account, but as a rule, if I see something posted on that account, I assume it's wrong until proven otherwise. So that got me thinking, what if this whole Chinese owner's son story is a load of old nonsense as well? And lo and behold, it is. Though, not in the way you might think. And, as is so often the case, at least I think, the truth is actually far more interesting than the falsehood, and the reality is even more bizarre and much more illuminating than the fiction. So, this is a quick tale all about misinformation, disinformation, and the weird world of Chinese football and their wacky owners. Zibo Kuzhou, the team supposedly pictured in that photograph, do indeed compete in China League One, which is the second tier of Chinese football, having won promotion from China League 2 last season. Their owner is a man named Hua Xiahua, but Hua Xiahua's son is not pictured in that photograph. He has never even played for Zibo Kuzhou. In fact, that photograph isn't even of a Zibo Kuzhou player or of a Zibo Kuzhou game at all. So, who is it? And who are they? Since, as you can probably tell from that photograph, the player in question doesn't appear to be built like a typical professional footballer. You would be correct in that assumption, and the man you're actually looking at is called Xie Guangnan, who is not just a random, rather rotund Chinese footballer, he is also a businessman, who was previously a shareholder of the Chinese football team Jilin Baijia, or simply JL Baijia for short. JL are based in the city of Changchun, in the province of Jilin, which borders both Russia and North Korea. Founded in 2011 as an amateur football team named Changchun Baihua, who only competed in local and regional competitions, JL stepped up to the big leagues in 2016. They merged with nearby Changchun Cailloux, who were owned by a major lubricant manufacturer, in an attempt to turn professional. The city of Changchun's biggest club is Changchun Hayatai, who were Chinese Super League champions back in 2007, but in a city and prefecture of almost 8 million people, JL felt that there was a gap in the market for them. The club was admitted into the Chinese Football Association Member Association Champions League in 2016, which was previously known as the Chinese Football Association Bing League and as the Chinese Football Association Amateur League, but is, rather confusingly, actually China's fourth tier of domestic football. I think it is called the Champions League because it is the highest level of amateur football in China, though it is also the lowest level nationwide league in China, if that makes sense. So, if you get relegated from the Chinese Football Association Member Association Champions League, then you drop down into the regional fifth tiers, but if you get promoted, you move into the Professional China League 2, which is the nation's third tier. And in 2016, during their very first season at that level, that is exactly what JL did, taking the fifth and final promotion place in the end of season knockout competition. They subsequently spent the 2017, 18 and 2019 seasons competing in the third tier of Chinese football, where they finished 20th, 14th and in 22nd place, in a league made up of 32 teams. You see, even though China League 2 is a national league, during the regular season it is actually split up into a North and South group, a bit like the MLS's with East and West, with promotion and relegation, something which is very unlike the MLS, dictated by a set of end-of-season playoffs comprising of both teams from China's North and South groups. Now, it is a precarious existence being a lower league Chinese football club, or just being a Chinese football club, full stop to be honest. But the lower leagues are particularly volatile. Every season, multiple clubs are disbanded, hence why JL were one of 5 teams to be granted promotion back in 2016. The 2019 season was a particularly catastrophic one for the league though, somewhat foreshadowing the storm that was to come in the upper echelons of the Chinese game in 2020. As 10 out of the 32 teams in China League 2 were disbanded at the end of the season, and subsequently ceased to exist. JL were one of those teams. Though they played at the North Lake Olympic Sport Park Stadium, which has a capacity in excess of 34,000, JL struggled to attract more than a couple of thousand fans to watch their home games. By their final season, in 2019, the club was in disarray. Players took to the pitch to vent their frustrations, staging a protest against the club's owners over unpaid wages. So, in the final game of the 2019 season, and as it happened, their last ever game before the club was dissolved, one of their shareholders, Xu Guangnan, donned the number 7 shirt and took to the pitch in midfield. Jilin lost the game 2-1, conceding, as you can tell from that screenshot, in the final 10 minutes. They were suspended from the league before the start of the 2020 China League 2 campaign over unpaid wages and bonuses, and were subsequently dissolved. Xi Guangnan does not appear to have had any previous experience playing football, or not professionally at least, either before or since. He was 32 at the time, and, unsurprisingly, there is no evidence to suggest that he weighs almost 20 stone. According to the website Tribuna, he weighed 86 kilograms, which is more like 13.5 stone, though I suspect that is a nonsense figure plucked out of the sky as well. So that may seem like the end of our story, but not quite. You see, whilst Hua Xiahua isn't pictured in that photograph, and nor are the team he owns, namely Zibo Kuju, that is not to say that there isn't a strange story about Hua Xiahua and the Chinese League 1 side. Zibo Kuju started out as a Sunday League team founded by a group of friends who were inspired by watching the 1982 World Cup finals in Spain. Since they played their games on a Sunday, the team was originally named Zibo Sunday, but they became Zibo Kuju after registering as a competitive amateur outfit in 1996. Some of you may be familiar with the ancient Chinese sport of Kuju, which FIFA recognises as the earliest ball sport with any resemblance to modern-day football. Zibo was once considered to be the home of the sport of Kuju, hence the team's name. In 2011, Zibo Kuju stepped up to the 4th tier, the amateur Champions League thing, but they didn't enjoy success as instantly as Jilin. It took the team 7 years until the 2017 season when they won the league for them to reach the third tier of Chinese football. In 2020, they won promotion for a second time, reaching the China League One, a level which is befitting of the city's rather impressive home ground. He Xiahua is the club's majority shareholder, and just last month, he came on as a substitute for the former Sunday League team in a second-tier tie against Sichuan Jinyu. Sichuan Jinyu are part of the ever-growing family of football clubs around the world who come under the City Football Group sphere of influence, currently 28% owned by the Manchester City ownership, though there are suggestions that they have ambitions to grow that ownership stake. Xiahua is much less amusing to look at on a football pitch, I suppose, given that he is fairly lean in comparison to the man who he was misattributed as being within Western social media circles. In fact, I shouldn't even say that, since he wasn't mistaken for anyone, his son was. To be clear, his son hasn't played football for anyone, and given that he himself is only 35, unless he had a child at 17 or 18, I should think it unlikely that he has a son who is old enough to be playing professional football. Whilst this story is still pretty wild, it isn't quite Jilin playing a shareholder after failing to pay their own first-team squad would. I suspect He Xiahua's ownership of Zibo has a fair amount to do with him being brought on during the dying embers of one of their games, but unlike Xie Guangnan, he has previously played football, albeit only in the form of a couple of Chinese lower league teams, only starting when he was 33 years of age. But still. The game in which he came on against Manchester City's sister side ended all square in a 0-0 draw. I must admit, I was pretty shocked to see a Serbian centre-back by the name of Nemanja Vidic in the Sichuan Jinyu starting 11. But it turns out it is a different Nemanja Vidic. The Manchester United legend remains very much still retired. The biggest name in the Zibo Cuju 11 is probably João Silva, who may be familiar with Everton fans, having spent a couple of seasons contracted to the Toffees around a decade ago, though he never actually made a first-team appearance. Sichuan Jinyu and Zibo Cuju actually play each other again at the end of this month. But with Zibo currently rooted to the foot of the China League One Group A table, perhaps they'll think better than to bring on their 35-year-old majority shareholder in injury time this time around. Incredibly though, these are not the only two examples of this having happened in China in recent years. Perhaps the most extraordinary and bizarre case is that of Zhu Zhen, a Singaporean businessman who was born in Shanghai and is the chairman of The Nine Limited, an online game company that is floated on the Shanghai Stock Exchange and owns the exclusive rights to the likes of World of Warcraft and FIFA Online in China. Zhen has been involved in football since 2005, initially with Shanghai Zhongbang and later with the better-known Shanghai Shenhua, who he acquired a controlling 28.5% stake in back in 2007. Zhen owned the club when they signed the likes of Didier Drogba and Nicolas Anelka in 2012, but he also fancied himself as a half-decent player as well. So much so, in fact, that in 2007 he forced the club's staff to name him on the bench for a pre-season friendly against Liverpool, which Shanghai lost 2-0 thanks to goals from Steven Gerrard and Fernando Torres. Zhen's ownership was incredibly controversial, with accusations that he wildly overpromised on salaries that he couldn't afford before either trying to force people out of the club or find grounds to sack them without payment. You may recall that neither Drogba nor Anelka lasted very long in China, but Zhen had plenty of prize before that. Just a year earlier, he'd practically sold or sacked Shanghai Shenhua's entire first-team squad in an effort to generate cash. And in May 2012, he decided to start himself up front alongside Nicolas Anelka in a friendly against Argentine CN Sports. He later threatened to do the same again for a game against Manchester United before backing down following significant opposition. Over in Hong Kong, there's an equally eccentric owner who considers himself to be something of a talent by the name of Kun Wing-Ye. You'll have to bear with me here because this is hard to believe, but everything that I'm about to say is absolutely true. Kun Wing-Ye is a native Hong Konger who owns a property business called Wing-Ye Property. In 2006, he started a football team named Wing-Ye for short, like his name, or Wing-Ye Property in full, like his business. A right-footed centre-forward, Wing Ye has been playing football in Hong Kong since 1994, which means he started his career before Gianluigi Buffon. For one season, Wing Ye was actually contracted to Happy Valley, who are a fairly successful team in Hong Kong with 6 top-flight titles to their name. He now serves as owner, chairman, assistant manager, and player for his self-styled club, who compete in Hong Kong's second tier. And you only really begin to understand the strangeness of this tale in full when I tell you that Wing Ye is 64 years old now. He has played 6 games for Wing Ye this season, though he's yet to record a single assist. Perhaps that's because he's only playing for himself. Get it? Never mind. He hasn't got a goal or an assist, but perhaps that's not surprising given that he is the same age as Virgil van Dijk and James Milner combined. Or, to put it another way, he is over 3 times as old as Kai Havertz. Wing Ye are a semi-professional club, and whilst their owner and chairman is by far their oldest player, you won't be surprised to discover, they do actually also have another veteran of a centre-forward. That man is the Brazilian Detinho, aged 47, meaning that Wing Ye have at times this season fielded a strike partnership with a combined age of 111. Unlike Wing Ye though, Detinho is still very prolific. The former Portuguese Premier League star has scored 90 goals in 103 games since signing for Wing Ye in 2015. Anyhow, I wanted to end with that wild tale, which, I hope you'll agree, is more interesting than any Twitter misinformation about 20 Stone sons who don't actually exist. That story was shared by virtually every big football social media account, proving once and for all that a lie really can get halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on. What's more, a lie about football in China is particularly easy to get away with, since there remains a sense of otherness about the global south and global east among many, along with the fact that details surrounding what's going on in China and in Chinese football can sometimes be a little tricky to fact check, as I know all too well, as this video took me ages and I got sidetracked about 15,000 times. Before I leave you, a quick thank you to Jonathan White from the South China Morning Post and the Titan Sports Plus Twitter page, both of whom are much more reliable sources of information about football in China than @FootyAckams or the Sport Bible, you will be shocked to discover. I hope you enjoyed today's video though, and if you want a reliable social media account for all kinds of football related topics, you know that I would highly recommend @HITC Sevens on both Twitter and Instagram. Thank you all as ever for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed today's video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on for HITC Sevens.